going on, guys? It's your boy John, a Liquidator, coming back with a major story. So it looks like WNBA has gathered data explaining about Caitlin Clark injury and everybody else injury that was affected by the 2025 season. Guys, for this one here, we got to go all the way up to New York. Let's get it. Let's go. Well, it looked like we got some data coming out, man, from the WNBA. Now, I done videos in the past kind of breaking down these injuries for the 2025 season, pretty much letting you know that more than half of the league players got injured.
In a stunning twist in this fictional scenario, the WNBA has released a statement that completely upends the circulating chatter from players and fans alike. Instead of blaming Caitlin Clark's crushing 2025 setbacks on heavy scheduling or routine wear and tear, the league's own internal breakdown points to a far more unsettling source, one that raises more questions than answers. What makes the announcement even more jaw-dropping is the league's refusal to probe the most obvious explanations, a silence that feels less like caution and more like an admission they'd rather not spell out. Their decision not to address those concerns directly has only intensified public suspicion. The statement is already sending tremors through the entire WNBA landscape, shaking the foundation of what supporters believed about athlete protection, transparency, and accountability. For Clark, the implications are enormous. For the league's future, they're potentially era-defining. As this fictional storyline unfolds, the debate over responsibility, fairness, and long-term reform is only growing louder, setting the stage for a moment that could reshape the conversation around player welfare for years to come.
For the 2025 season, pretty much letting you know that more than half of the league players got injured at some point in time this 2025 season. I think it was 151 players, like 91 of them all affected felt some type of injury for the 2025 season, which is mind-boggling when you think about the sheer numbers. Could you imagine a league where 70% of the players get hurt? Like, you know, that don't look too good. Now, I've been seeing the news about Kathy Egerberg being out. I reported on this months ago. I told you guys, when the CBA agreement get done, Kathy...
This fictional unfolding of events, the issue goes far beyond a simple lapse in judgment. The WNBA delivered a stunning announcement, stating with absolute clarity that it would not launch any internal review into whether its own referees played a role in recent player injuries. That firm refusal landed with the force of a gavel strike, signaling a stance that many observers view as remarkably telling. By declining to even open the door to an inquiry, league officials have ignited intense public scrutiny. To critics, the silence resembles an indirect confirmation, an institutional shrug at allegations too serious to ignore. The decision is especially jarring given that this imagined season has been overshadowed by a wave of injuries unlike anything the league has faced before. The choice not to examine officiating conduct has left fans, analysts, and former players demanding clarity and leadership. Calls for top-down accountability are growing louder by the day, as many struggle to understand how a matter of such gravity could be pushed aside. Within this fictional narrative, the league now finds itself on the defensive, navigating a storm of doubt that threatens to reshape its credibility and its commitment to athlete safety moving forward.
Too good. Now, I've been seeing the news about Kathy Egerberg being out. I reported on this months ago. I told you guys, when the CBA agreement get done, Kathy Egerberg is more than likely going to get relieved of her duties. I'm not going to say fired. She's going to get relieved of her duties. They've been interviewing. They've been trying to figure out who the replacement is going to be. I believe they already have the replacement. I'm not going to make a bunch of videos talking about stuff that we already talked about, guys. We talked about this at the conclusion of the season. Kathy Egerberg is more than likely, allegedly, going to be let go once this CBA agreement get done, because that is
fictional storyline. The 2025 season spiraled into one of the darkest chapters for player health the league had ever seen. The numbers alone were enough to stop any executive in their tracks. Roughly 70% of the league's athletes were hit with injuries, creating a crisis so severe it overshadowed every highlight and headline. Instead of the usual strains or routine knocks, these were significant setbacks, injuries capable of derailing careers and dismantling entire team strategies overnight. Picture an organization where nearly 3/4 of its roster rotation is compromised at once. The competitive balance collapsed, and the league was left scrambling to fill gaps that seemed to widen week after week. Even more startling, internal tallies suggested that injuries far outpaced what any normal season would produce, an unmistakable red flag pointing toward deeper structural failures. Coaches, players, and medical staff were left asking how such an overwhelming breakdown in athlete safety could unfold without intervention. Taken together, this fictional crisis exposes a troubling pattern, long-standing issues allowed to simmer until they erupted into a full-blown emergency. The magnitude of the problem doesn't just hint at systemic flaws, it practically broadcasts them, demanding answers the league can no longer postpone.
Allegedly going to be let go once this CBA agreement get done, because that is the proposal on the table. So in the proposal, from what I heard, allegedly Kathy Engelbert getting the boot is part of. It's like it's in there that they want a new. The ladies want a new commissioner. So that is part of the agreement with them signing off on it as well. From what I heard, allegedly, you know what I'm saying? We got to say that out there because, you know, we're not in the meetings. We don't know. Now, if that is true, which I think it very much could be, it's my opinion, Kathy's going to get the boot, bro. She's just going to get the boot. Ain't no shaking it. Now,
center of this fictional crisis stood Caitlin Clark, the league's most electrifying figure and the face of a rapidly growing era. Her injury didn't just interrupt a standout season, it sent shockwaves through an organization that had finally begun to capture mainstream momentum. Clark wasn't merely another high-profile athlete, she had become the engine driving record-breaking audiences and renewed national interest. Her presence reshaped how fans engaged with women's basketball, pulling in viewers who had never followed the sport before. In many ways, the league's forward surge hinged on her ability to stay active and visible. Losing her midseason felt like losing a cornerstone holding up an entire structure. The timing couldn't have been worse. With the WNBA poised for a milestone stretch of expansion, sponsorships, and cultural relevance, her abrupt departure created a vacuum the league struggled to fill. What should have been a landmark moment of growth instead became a precarious balancing act. In this fictional narrative, Clark's injury symbolizes more than a personal setback, it marks a pivotal disruption to the league's long-awaited breakout. It underscored just how dependent the ecosystem had become on a single superstar and raised urgent questions about resilience, preparation, and long-term stability.
Kathy's going to get the boot, bro. She's just going to get the boot. Ain't no shaking it. Now, something that we have to talk about, shifting gears here, is these damn injuries. So it looked like the WNBA released some data and an article came out kind of breaking down these injuries. Now, we know Caitlin Clark was affected. She probably was the biggest name in the 2025 season affected by injuries, and it was just so bad for her that it affected the whole genre as a whole. Caitlin Clark don't get hurt, the genre will be dead right now. Caitlin Clark would have just played, hit logo threes, the offseason to be like last year. But unfortunately,
point in this fictional narrative arrived when a detailed investigative piece from Basketball powered by the Next pulled back the curtain on the league's own injury and scheduling records. This wasn't rumor or fan speculation, it was a methodical examination of official data, laid out with the precision of a forensic audit. The article dissected the season's staggering injury patterns and exposed the scope of the 2025 health breakdown with stark, undeniable clarity. What made the report so striking was how deeply it connected the dots between internal metrics and real-world consequences. It didn't rely on emotional appeals, it relied on numbers, timelines, and verifiable trends that painted a troubling picture of how the season spiraled out of control. And then came the twist. In this fictional scenario, the league's later decisions, what it addressed publicly and what it chose to sidestep, seemed to mirror the concerns raised in the investigation. Their selective responses gave the impression of confirming, without explicitly stating, the very issues the article had highlighted. By choosing to redirect responsibility rather than confront the findings head-on, officials inadvertently fueled even more debate. The report, once seen as a cautionary breakdown, suddenly became the backbone of a larger conversation about accountability, transparency, and the real story behind the season's unprecedented injury fallout.
And it was just so bad for her that it affected the whole genre as a whole. Caitlin Clark don't get hurt, the genre will be dead right now. Caitlin Clark would have just played, hit logo threes, the offseason to be like last year. But unfortunately, the offseason right now is like there's not a WNBA genre at all. Hell, I believe Caitlin Clark getting hurt affected all of basketball content when you think about it, because like NBA ain't really getting that many views. Nothing is really getting views like that. And I believe Caitlin Clark is definitely that big of a superstar to have done that. Now, this is an article that came out from Basketball, powered by the Next.
This fictional storyline, the most explosive claim in the report, zeroed in on the league's officiating crews, suggesting that referee conduct played a significant role in the alarming spike in injuries. This wasn't framed as a passing critique or a hot take, it read like a pointed, methodical accusation aimed at the very foundation of on-court regulation. The report described patterns that, if accurate in this fictional narrative, indicated a breakdown in how rules were enforced and how physical play was monitored. Instead of offering a safe and controlled environment, the analysis suggested that officiating inconsistencies may have allowed dangerous situations to escalate unchecked. For any professional sports league, having an internal assessment hint at such a severe lapse in judgment and oversight would be nothing short of headline-making. It signals a potential structural failure that demands more than a memo or a minor adjustment. It calls for immediate, comprehensive reform. Within this fictional context, the allegation lands like a scandal waiting to erupt, raising the possibility that the very individuals tasked with maintaining order may have inadvertently contributed to the chaos. It's the kind of revelation that forces organizations to confront uncomfortable truths and reevaluate every layer of their operational
Powered by the Nets. It says, what does the data say about injuries and scheduling? Ways the current schedule has impacted injuries and how that might get better or worse moving forward. Now, I told y'all when I did my video months ago, I said I feel like the referees played a big part in a lot of these players getting injured. I must say, ain't no if and buts about it. The referees definitely played a part. This article right here stated, the WNBA schedule has long been a topic of discussion, and in the 2025 season, that discussion has only grown. The 2025 season, the longest.
In this fictional account, the report leveled a particularly explosive charge that referees had allowed levels of physicality more suited to a full-contact arena than a professional basketball court. According to the analysis, rules meant to shield athletes from dangerous play were inconsistently applied, creating an atmosphere where overly aggressive behavior went unchecked. The result, as described in the piece, was a steady rise in hard collisions, risky challenges, and moments of excessive force that should have drawn immediate whistles. Instead, many of these incidents reportedly went by without penalty, shifting the tone of games from disciplined competition to something far more chaotic. When the officials responsible for maintaining order fail to set clear boundaries, the ripple effect on player safety can be devastating. Every possession carries heightened danger, every drive becomes a gamble, and every contest for the ball raises the stakes. In this fictional scenario, that breakdown in enforcement didn't just affect a single team or a handful of matchups, it transformed the rhythm of entire games across the season. It created a landscape where athletes were forced to navigate unpredictable, often hazardous conditions, and where serious injuries became an ever-present possibility. The report frames this as more than a lapse in oversight, it portrays it as a systemic failure with league-wide consequences, urging a complete reassessment of how officiating standards are upheld.
The referees definitely played a part. This article right here stated, the WNBA schedule has long been a topic of discussion, and in the 2025 season, that discussion has only grown. The 2025 season, the longest in WNBA history, was riddled with injuries and scheduling problems. Per that, with the ongoing collective bargaining agreement, which what we're going through right now, player health is a rare topic that players and the league should have a common interest in addressing. And injuries are particularly detrimental in such a star-studded league.
Fictional narrative, Caitlin Clark became one of the most visible casualties of what analysts have described as dangerously inconsistent officiating. Throughout the season, she endured a string of heavy collisions and unchecked contact, moments that, under normal enforcement standards, would have drawn immediate whistles. Instead, play often continued in near silence. These situations didn't occur once or twice, they unfolded repeatedly, creating a pattern that left her vulnerable game after game. Observers within this fictional world argue that these missed calls directly contributed to the wear and tear that eventually removed her from the court. The absence of timely intervention placed her in harm's way, illustrating how a systematic breakdown in officiating can endanger even the league's brightest stars. More troubling within this imagined storyline is a chilling suggestion raised by the report: some of the non-calls may not have been purely accidental. The implication, still speculative within the fictional framework, is that certain officials may have allowed heightened physicality to persist, potentially in pursuit of a more dramatic viewing experience or for motives left unspoken. If accurate, such a choice would cross the line from mere oversight into deliberate misconduct, fundamentally compromising athlete safety. The report doesn't stop there. It also dismantles a long-standing belief held by many players that back-to-back games were a primary driver of injuries. For For years, athletes insisted that the grueling turnaround between consecutive matchups was eroding their bodies. Yet the league's data, as outlined in this fictional investigation, presented a very different picture. The statistics were surprisingly decisive. Only 19 of the season's 582 reported injuries, roughly 3%, occurred during the second night of a back-to-back. This finding upends the prevailing narrative, showing that while players may resent the rapid scheduling, the numbers do not support the idea that these stretches were the root cause of widespread physical decline. Instead, the evidence redirects attention away from the calendar and toward other, more urgent issues. Based on this data, the fictional WNBA